Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. We have a pretty intense period full of Technic releases, but today we are switching to something completely different. This is the new LEGO Ideas 21370 ET the Extra-Terrestrial. A quick clarification before we begin. This review will be a bit different from my usual detailed building reviews. Not because the set is not interesting, but simply because during this period I had to focus most of my time on the Technic builds. I spent almost 2 weeks with the Sadar Spear alone, several sets arrived late, and scheduling everything became a real challenge. I was also very happy to see so many positive reactions under the first collaborator video made by Alex, but there were also a few questions and concerns about why I won't make every single video myself going forward. The reason is very simple. My time isn't unlimited. There are a lot of LEGO sets coming out constantly, so with some of them I either make a shorter review, I don't cover them at all, or the option I prefer, I give someone else the opportunity to make a detailed review in RacingBrick style. That's the way I chose. This one was offered during the selection period, so we built it, and I also joined the roundtable discussion with the LEGO designers and the fan designer, which means I can still share some interesting background information about the model. We'll take a closer look at the finished set, I will show some of the internal solutions, the hidden easter eggs, and talk about some of the design choices behind this very wrinkly little alien. The set has 1226 pieces, the price is €130 or $140, and it will be available from the 1st of August. It can already be pre-ordered on lego.com and you will find the link below. There are 10 numbered bags in the box, plus the manual, and there is no sticker sheet. The manual starts with a nice introduction from the fan designer Richard Lemaitre, also known as Lafabrique, from Lille in France. He's an architect and urban planner and also a big fan of the movie. We also get some information about the film itself, then a bit of a spoiler for the internal Easter eggs, and a few words and facts from the LEGO design team. Here is the part list, and as you can see it is absolutely dominated by medium nougat pieces. There are several recolors and one brand new part in the set. Let's start with the overall look. From the front, I think they captured the character surprisingly well. Interestingly, the final scale of the model was actually influenced by the eyes. The team had a general idea of the size they wanted, but the body ended up becoming a little bit larger so the eyes could scale properly. We get a pair of printed pieces for the eyes, and they are asymmetrical, just like they should be. The team spent a lot of time and went through many iterations to capture the right look, and I think it was worth it. With a character like E.T., the face either works or it doesn't. Here, at least for me, it works much better in person than it did on the first official images. The head is one of the most important parts of the build. It is quite complicated, with a lot of half-stud offsets, just like the rest of the model. And yes, E.T. does have a pink piece for the brain. The neck uses a Technic axle with ball joints on both ends, and around that we get this barrel piece. I really like this solution because it is a very simple element used in a clever way. It gives the neck a bit of texture while also hiding the Technic core. The designer, David Geddes, tried a lot of different variations, and this brings us to one of the biggest differences compared to the original fan design. Richard's version had an extendable neck, and this was also considered for the official set. David said he spent far too much time trying to make the neck extension work, probably around a month, but in the end there simply wasn't enough space in the shoulder and neck area. The light brick was considered more important to the story, and I agree with that decision. Adding the extendable neck would have required a much more complicated and less stable mechanism, with the trigger possibly moving down into the belly area. So yes, there is a light brick inside. The light shines through these grill pieces at the front and the trigger is at the back. I also asked whether a smart brick was considered, but since it is not widely available yet, and during the development of this model it had only been introduced for Star Wars, it wasn't really an option. But I'm sure fans will find a way to integrate it, and hopefully we will get some matching sound effects as well. So this build is not really dynamic. As the designer explained, E.T. himself is not a character with hundreds of action poses. He's basically a potato with arms, and once you hear that, it's hard to unsee it. But that also explains the direction of the model. This is mainly a display sculpture, but with just enough articulation and expression to capture the important movie moments. You can rotate the legs, shoulders, wrists, fingers and the head, and of course the most iconic pose is the pointing finger with the head looking slightly upward. There's one new element used in the set, the 90-degree macaroni piece used for the shoulders. The elbows are fixed, but you can still rotate the arms around. Unfortunately, the ball joint elements at the wrist had to remain grey. According to LEGO, only these have the right amount of friction to remain consistent. David tried a lot of different variations, but this was the most stable and flexible solution, so this compromise had to be made. There's also one interesting suggestion in the manual: you can actually swap the shoulder and elbow pieces to unlock more arm poses. This is not something you will do every 5 minutes like with an action figure, because you need to rebuild the arms a little bit, but it does allow a few different display options. E.T. can also hold the flower pot in the default configuration. This accessory was chosen because it was part of the original submission, and it might be the most important extra item from the movie. The leg articulation is fairly limited, but you can still replicate quite faithfully how E.T. walks. Speaking of the potato, the body, this is basically a stack of organic wrinkles. The fan design used a ton of half-stud offsets, and this approach was kept for the final build as well. You can see this throughout the body, where the surface moves in and out by half a stud, sometimes rising by a plate, sometimes shifting slightly sideways. This gives the model that uneven organic texture without relying on prints or stickers. It's still a weird body shape because it is a weird body shape, but that's the point. There are a few exposed studs on the sides and on the head. At first glance, you might think these were unavoidable because of the part usage, but most of them are intentional. They add texture where the designers couldn't add as many physical wrinkles without making the body stick out too far. I actually like this. The model is almost completely smooth, so a few visible studs are a nice reminder of the LEGO DNA. Now let's talk about the shoulders, because this is probably the most complex area of the set. From the outside it looks simple enough. It has these long thin arms attached to narrow shoulders, and they need to hold a pose. But inside, this section has to support the arms, connect the neck, leave space for the light brick function, and still fit into the very small upper body. As David shared, this was probably the biggest challenge of the whole model, and once you see the internal structure it does look quite complex. Inside the body there are hidden references, including the small phone, and also a microscale reference to the family arriving in their spaceship to bring E.T. home. This is one of those details that most people will only see during the build, because it is not easy to open the body afterwards just to check it. Interestingly, the body was not designed specifically to hide Easter eggs. David said they knew the body would have a cavity, but the construction was mainly designed this way because it made sense structurally. Honestly, when I first looked at the model, I thought it was weird, but after exploring the building solutions and having it in front of me, I realized that E.T. was designed to be weird in the first place. So in that sense, the LEGO version is a pretty faithful representation. The back has even more wrinkles than the front. The light brick trigger needs an access point, and the hole below it is a little bit distracting, but it works. And as David shared, he did extensive research to get the butt area right. You need to trust him on this one. Apparently, this is how E.T. looks from behind. Apart from the grey ball joints, the only really distracting thing I noticed was the slight color inconsistency of the nougat parts. Some of them, especially the bent elements, simply have a slightly different shade. It is not terrible, but on a model dominated by one main color, these differences are easier to spot. So, this is a LEGO sculpture of a character we all know and love. Despite the articulation and the light brick, it is definitely not a playset. The building experience is good, with lots of tricky techniques and clever solutions, but to really appreciate the end result, you have to want a brick-built E.T. sculpture on your desk. It is definitely not for everyone, but if you are a fan of the movie and you want to have a little alien watching you while you work, then it is a nice building experience and a charming display piece. Honestly, after several weeks of Technic builds, gearboxes and suspension parts, spending some time with a wrinkly alien potato was not the worst change of pace. There are also tons of opportunities for customization. You can build a phone, a wig, maybe some extra movie props, and I'm not sure the recently introduced bicycle would hold the weight properly, but someone will definitely try to add the basket as well. So, what do you think about the new LEGO Ideas E.T.? Is this the kind of nostalgic movie character you want to see more often from LEGO Ideas, or would you prefer minifigure-based movie scenes instead? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications, as more exciting LEGO videos are coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.